Welcome back to another episode of Life's Ambition Podcast. Today we're joined by someone who is extremely talented. She's going to give her input on the world of graphic design. Without further ado, Lauren Zeligson. So Lauren, how are we doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Another
Good.
sunny day in North Carolina, so I cannot complain with that.
Good.
But I'm super excited about our conversation today. I think it's going to be a really good one because I just spoke to someone recently who did a lot of photography and videography along as well with filmmaking. And I think this would be really cool to hear your side of graphic design and how it all works. And I just kind of want to know how you got into it.
So I went to Boston University and I entered their communications school because what I did know is that, yes, I'm creative. Yes, I'm artistic, but no, I didn't want to spend hours in a studio painting. And I wasn't sure how that was going to turn into anything past college.
Yeah.
So I went to BU's College of Communications and pretty much followed like the art director track of the advertising path because I figured that was maybe close of what I could do, but I wasn't sure. But I did know that I never wanted to work in an ad agency. I didn't feel like that pace was something I would enjoy. And it was really pretty cutthroat. It still is, but I think it really was in the 80s and 90s.
Interesting. I guess, what do you mean by cutthroat?
I know myself, just like I knew that when I loved Boston, but I didn't want to live there. The longer I was there, I didn't want to live on the East Coast. To me, it felt like everything was very rushed, very intense. And I knew that I wanted something a little more laid back, and advertising is also very intense. And it's not even the deadlines that are an issue. It's just a different kind of business. And I knew that probably wasn't for me.
Gotcha. Because I can totally understand that advertising, it may not be rushed, but I still feel like you're probably cranking out designs
Constantly.
and what people need.
Yeah.
And I love to kind of get later on in terms of how like freelance works into all this stuff. But what would you say are like the different aspects of graphic design itself? Like when you went to Boston, what were you learning, I guess to say?
Okay, so when I was in school, there was no desktop publishing yet. Okay, that had just kind of started ramping up, but BU didn't even have a computer lab till my senior year. So everything was hand-drawn. So like if we were designing ad campaigns, I had a writing partner and she would write the copy and I would design, but it was all hand-drawn. So it was all concepts hand-done. And so that's a huge difference. Like now, if someone knows they want to go into design or desktop publishing or whatever it is, there's a track for that, but they didn't have that then. And when you went to BU, in the comm school, you could either do PR, TV, journalism, or advertising, but there was nothing that combined it all. And you really couldn't take classes in the other areas. And so as far as I knew when I graduated, I was like, I want to do something creative, but didn't know what. And I was really lucky because I moved to Kansas City with a high school friend and I was able to temp, which nobody does that anymore also, and it taught me a lot. Like it first exposed me, to Sprint, which was their major employer at the time. I don't know if they still are, but they were. And it kind of gave me an insight a little more into office, what kind of work maybe I'd want to do. And I went on a ton of interviews. I remember I was offered a job at a manufacturing company for $12,000 a year. And my dad was like, you cannot live on that.
Yeah.
But I didn't even know what I could live on. So I did land in desktop publishing. And the minute I got there, I knew I was in the right place. I worked for a college recruitment magazine. And I can't remember if it was biannually or annually, but we did like 27 editions because it was based on your state and your region. And so that was a really great way for me to kind of jump into whatever this was that I was going to do.
Yeah, I guess I got two questions for you. So I'm so unfamiliar with the graphic design world.
Right.
What did you mean by things had only progressed to desktop publishing? Like what was it beforehand? And then also 28 editions sounds like a lot.
Right. So before the mid 90s, like when I had an internship here one summer in college, everything was done by hand. And the brand new software for design was Quark Express, which doesn't exist anymore. And So I was really lucky to intern for this designer in town because I basically fiddled with Photoshop, Illustrator, and Quark pretty much all day long, but everything was still hand done. Like, so when you see an ad in the paper with the big headline, that used to be all hand typeset, like with little
Oh my.
blocks for printers. And so in 1991, we were still using a typesetter for stuff. So that's how drastically different, like, once computers came, programs and computers came in, it made things a lot faster. I think PageMaker was the first desktop publishing product, and I was part of a focus group, basically my senior year of high school, doing the yearbook in Photoshop, in PageMaker and by hand. And so it took a
Holy
while
cow.
for all of this stuff to kind of ramp up. And
But it sounds like it
yeah,
ramped up so quickly.
yeah, and not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And 26 issues, I really can't remember if it was once a year or what, but like a big part of the magazine were these business reply cards, so Drew, you're interested in Illinois State Southern University, you could send in a card and then they would send you their information.
Oh.
And actually, I learned my very first big lesson about proofreading at that job because I made a mistake on a postcard that said no postage necessary, and it was supposed to say postage necessary. So my boss, her husband, her kids, Scott, and I spent an entire weekend up at the printer liquid papering out the word no on every single card of like a 30,000 run.
A 30.
So it was a very valuable lesson.
Yeah, and Keys,
Yeah.
I'm assuming it just the resources to remake all of them, all
Right.
30,000
Or even
copies.
edit. Now my print job can be at the printer partway through and I'll be like, oh my God, we have a change. I can just send that change and then it's incorporated. Like, it's not like I don't have to get it back and redo it and send it back. The path is way easier now.
Interesting. I guess, like, for the graphic design world,
Yeah.
it's a lot of imagery based things. How does it compare to photography and like filmmaking and stuff like that? Do you guys work maybe in tandem when it comes to advertising certain products, or is it completely separate?
So we use a lot of photography at what I do now because what I do now is not just design, it's PR, it's writing, it's social content creation. So we do use photographers and I can think like a photographer. Video for me is a totally different ballgame that I cannot, it's not my comfort zone. And I don't even know if I want it to be because there are plenty of other people that are doing it far better than I could. So, and I really believe in like staying in your lane a lot of the time, like, doing what you're good at, and you don't have to be good at everything.
No.
So, and we incorporate video in what I'm doing now, but it's probably not as intense as it would be for another agency that's not dealing with seniors, probably.
Gotcha.
So we're pretty careful about that.
Gotcha. And what is that you do now, like for people that don't know?
So I'm the communication specialist at Life Senior Services. So our organization is an organization for 50 plus, basically helping seniors live vibrant lives, age with dignity, and have access to any information they could possibly need. So we offer like a Medicare enrollment program. We offer a free tax program. We have a senior center for folks to play pickleball and 8,000 other things, but pickleball seems to be the main thing people want to do. We have an adult day health program for respite care. So if your mother, let's say, has some type of illness, but you need to go to work or you just need a break, those folks can come to our adult day health program and have enriching days, and then the caregiver has respite care as well.
So this is like a communications role, but where's the design aspect come to it?
It is a communications role. So I was strictly a graphic designer until about 2006.
Okay.
And then I started into nonprofit. And so I first started out at a hospital and I was still the graphics manager. So I was putting out, invitations, programs, all sorts of, anything printed, posters, anything. And then when I left there, I went to Girl Scouts. And then when I started Girl Scouts, they were like, hey, we've got Facebook. We don't really know how to use it. And so I took that on. And what was neat about Girl Scouts is they had a brand center. Any national organization has a brand center. So I could pull down graphics that maybe interested me and then design, like customize them for our local council.
Oh.
And now, I do PR, I do I was originally hired to do digital content, but I also do design support. So we have a designer that does our magazine, but any overflow normally comes to me in the form of invitations, posters, newsletters, community reports, like anything printed.
Well, which is crazy for me to think about your guys' world as a whole, because it seems like there's so many intricate details that you guys will
Yeah.
discuss when it comes to publishing something or even just handing out to different people, like a letter, in terms of where to format certain words, what's going to stick out to you the most.
Right.
Because that's probably all lucrative deal in terms of making sure you can get the most amount of, I would say, I want to say attention
Well,
towards these aspects.
you want your message to land where you think it's going to, and that all has to do with storytelling. And I really think that, most agencies who experience success are really great storytellers about their participants, storytellers about their members, families, whatever it is. And so, yeah, I mean, I would say that this is where AI has come in very handy, because, you can have a bunch of thoughts, but you can't figure it out. Can you write me 10 headlines that, coordinate with life and something else or whatever it is? And then at least it's a nice springboard, like to come up with something that, draws your reader in.
So how do you storytell? Like, what makes a good storyteller versus a bad storyteller? Because you're 100% right. You have to be able to convey your message. And
Right.
you don't, maybe it's not necessarily words, but it's images that you're using.
Right.
Or
both. I mean, so when I was at St. Francis, I would say the greatest storytelling came out of the children's hospital. Kids that survived, rare diseases or a car accident or whatever it is. And, the hospital was there for them. So with our agency, it's families that we've made a difference for, whether it's a loved one, like a spouse that has, early onset dementia, and, their spouse needs a break and needs to still work or wants to still work. It's really important to share those stories, again, though, while preserving dignity, because I think, like, when you're watching TikTok, right, and you're seeing like senior, like retirement communities dancing, I think there's a very fine line between having fun and exploiting folks. And so you have to be really careful in the like care environment. Does that make sense?
yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Because also, you don't want to portray an image that, let's just say the senior community, everyone, let's just say the baseline age is 70, and you
Right.
see everyone dancing.
Right.
That may not be a perception of reality for everyone. So you're trying to
Right.
also hide that dignity. And just
But
like
the
when
flip
you,
side of that is, your mom and we are the next group aging, right? And what we are going to want is completely different from what our parents have wanted.
exactly.
Or like, I can't even tell you how many times a week I hear the type might be too small. They can't read it, or this or that. And I'm like, they can read it because I can read it. I mean, and so, I feel like we have to like flip the script a little bit. And, I've been talking a lot about how I don't think we should be calling it aging. We should be calling it living, because that's what's happening. I mean, these seniors, are amazing, and they all have stories too. And then it's, and finding out what those are. Like, we have an improv group, and I love knowing how these folks ended up wanting to do improv, because I would never do it in a million flipping years. And
no, those people who can get up and like someone's spitting a topic at them, I'm like, yeah, no, that's
So there's an older gentleman who used to build sets for our performing arts center. So he was in theater. But then there's another gal who's super, super shy, and she loves it. And, I think bringing all of those folks together is super helpful also. And, and it makes days more pleasant and lives easier when you make friends and, people your age. But I do think there's going to be a flip pretty soon, because like, even my mother-in-law gardens every Sunday morning in, running shorts in a tank. Scott's grandmother never would have done that. So, I mean, and so for us, like, we just want to, we do a monthly magazine, and we really wanted to speak to 50 and older, because that's where it's heading.
Yeah, so let's I'd love to kind of talk about that in terms of the different generation aspect.
Yeah.
I 100% believe every generation has their own kind of theme or message to them. Do you find that a lot when you first started your graphic design work and the message that you're trying to portray, even if it was just in the company, appeal changing as the years went on as it appealed to different people?
Right. Well, so when we lived in Kansas City, I actually worked for a home magazine, and it's probably 1998. And I remember somebody reported the magazine to equal housing because none of our ads were diverse. All of the neighborhoods just showed white families. And that's what has always have been done.
Yeah.
And getting folks to kind of hop on board with that was challenging. And now it's like second nature. You always want to, when we are picking stock photos or we're taking photos, we're always mindful of the diversity in our community because
That's what's going to open up to everyone.
right, because if I'm only seeing, let's say, Native Americans, it doesn't speak to me, right? And so we really try to bring everybody in because we want everyone to feel welcome.
Yeah, Greg Gillis had him on recently, and he talked about how when you work for a corporate company, and he's a photographer, they like to portray a certain image,
Right,
and they kind of tell you what's going on and what they
right.
want to convey. Was that the same when you were working as well for these different businesses of they want to
So
portray a certain image, or where did like your creativity come into play?
So like when we first started it with home builders, they were pissed. They only wanted white families. They were pissed. They didn't understand. They didn't want this. This is not how they wanted their neighborhoods to look, which is absolutely asinine because that's not how the world is.
No.
But um, so once, and we curate a lot of that. Like if we're doing an appeal and we want to show that we have men that participate too, or you know, like we don't have a huge Asian population at our senior center. And so we debate about whether we're going to show images or not, like stock images of that. But when we're doing photography, I'm working with the photographer, making sure they know who we want to put in these pictures and what message we want to try to convey.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
how do you come up with these ideas? Because I find like when I look at something, if I'm given a task of, hey, I want to portray a family just having fun. Like I feel
Right.
like maybe Upper Mansion could give something as general as that. How do you break down a problem like that? Like, or maybe you have an example in your head of something that's been vague, but you have to portray what they want, but you also got to
Right.
show off a good messaging.
Yeah.
How
So
do you
with
break it
the
down?
advent of Canva, before
Canva is
Canva and before, yeah.
awesome.
And so before Canva, if I like, what was I working on? Oh, I was working on a poster this morning for the parks. And so I Googled, park programming poster to see what would come up. And then, I Googled a couple other things. And then sometimes I'll go over to Pinterest and see what they have. But I've shifted a lot of my design from Adobe to Canva because what's great is that I can make a change and then someone else can edit it too. It's just not, on my desk.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to do actually most print stuff in Canva, also to see what their capability is. But all of their templates, it's like an unlimited supply of ideas. And so, normally I do a quick search, I look for inspiration, and then I just kind of jump in and figure it out.
So you can edit other people's design work and make it your own?
So, like, let's say you and I are on a team together. What I'm saying is, if I create the poster and you're like, I really love it, but I want that green orange, you can, if you're on the account, you can go in and edit it yourself.
Oh,
Um, so like it's great for teamwork. Like we use it a lot at work because anybody can edit it. Anybody with access can edit it. And then it's not just on my desk.
gotcha. And what are like your opinions on? I've heard about when people are creating different images or design work, that color plays a very big
Uh-huh.
factor. And
Mhm.
I heard that so McDonald's uses red,
Red and
orange,
yellow. Yeah.
or yeah, red, yellow, and
Yeah.
white or whatever. But I heard that red and yellow are the biggest colors that appeal to the eye the most.
Well, they're probably because they're bright. Like green is like our logos, everything is green. Our branding is green, orange, a light blue, a gold. Green is supposed to be serene and calm.
Okay.
Um, and that brand, that branding was in place when I got there, and we haven't really edited it since. I mean, a brand, when an agency or a company is doing a brand redo, like Scott's firm just did a brand redo and a brand intro, it's a huge deal. It's across all platforms. It's a lot of work. And yeah, they study color. What feelings does it evoke in you? Like all of that. And for me, like I have 5 basic colors that I can design in for our brand. And every now and then, bring in an accent color, a different color, but at least that's established for me. Like I don't have to worry about that. Most everybody has that.
What if you
But
didn't have that? Like, what
yeah,
if you
then I
didn't have
mean,
a color
then
scheme?
it's your experience and your knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, years ago we used to have Pantone books, and you would go through the color to see and what matched, and now it's just so much easier. You can eyedropper a photo and find the exact color and go with it. And um I'm trying to think if there's anything I've worked on where there's not a brand.
Because
Let
I
me
feel
think
like
about that.
that's got to be really hard to
Yeah,
kind of invent something from
yeah,
scratch,
yeah,
especially. So, as a GIS person, I deal
yeah,
with colors all the time. I just pump
right.
out a map and it just works for people. But when you're talking about a brand, because that's kind of what they're going to be sticking with, I feel like that can feel like a lot of pressure and just kind of a lot to deal with because you are just kind of starting from scratch. So I was very
Right.
curious to see how you handled those kind of situations, or even if someone's only got like 2 colors.
So if we have
How?
like a new logo that we want to create, or I need to create for someone, most of the time I give folks 3 or 4 choices. And sometimes people have a color idea, sometimes they don't. So I just pick colors that I think would evoke what they're looking for, and we go
Yeah,
from there.
yeah. And so with the colors that you choose, do they give you a theme of, hey, I want something more calm? So you are using those greens and
No, not really. I
oh,
mean, that's normal. No, I mean, I think people know what colors they like and what they don't like. And um, sometimes people are really open to different stuff. And sometimes, like when I worked at the hospital, their branding was pink. It was like this salmon pink. It was on everything. And there's like a certain comfort knowing it's consistent. And then it's like, ugh, more pink, right? And then I went to Girl Scouts, green, bright green, just like what we have now, green and
Mhm.
navy. Green and navy are nice. Those work well together. But everything's green. And so, now I'm at Life, everything's green. Um,
Yeah.
but what's nice about that is the agency has been around over 50 years. And so they're rooted in the community. And one of our services is we provide transportation to seniors, whether it's going to the doctor or coming to our senior center. So we have a fleet of probably 20 or 30 wrapped cars. So those are also driving around town. So,
Oh,
we're I was looking at one yesterday because I pass them all the time going home. We almost don't even need the name of our agency on it. It could just be our leaves and our color, and you'd know what it is, because you just see it so often.
which which is really nice to have an
Yeah,
established brand for sure.
yeah, yeah,
And I can only imagine like, and the reason why I kind of like ask these questions is because it's very intuitive to find out, especially for someone who's new, of how to handle those kind of situations or think creatively
yeah.
and what colors do they like, what kind of design. So it sounds like you almost come to the person or client or whoever you're working with many different ideas
Yeah.
and then kind of work with them from there.
Yeah, I mean, and look, my education is totally different than like my colleague Leah. Leah went to there's a program here at Oklahoma State. It's an IT program. So it's like hardcore design, photography, culinary, all of that stuff. And she comes from everything from more technical. Like she learned all the theory around color. She learned, and she uses that every day. Since I didn't come from that background, all of what I know is learned while working. And
Experience. Yeah.
yeah, and so and those kinds of work styles complement each other because she is a designer. She's an illustrator, she's a designer, but she doesn't do any of the other marketing um aspects like public relations or copywriting or any of that. And I actually feel pretty fortunate that I moved into nonprofit marketing because it made me 100% realize that you need to know a little bit of all of that the comm school offered in order to be successful. And every time I get a like survey, I always say, I really hope your students are getting a taste of everything, because if they land a nonprofit, they'll be responsible for everything. And, that is totally different than what I was prepared for.
Yeah, like what is the nonprofit world like? Like
Well,
what
the
is it like?
nonprofit world is underfunded, and, you know, me or anyone else wears multiple hats. So yes, I do digital content, but yeah, I'm also doing press release. I'm also reaching out to the press to come to an event. I'm also working on our website. Like, it's so many more, because there's just not the bandwidth to hire staff to do all of that. And so,
Yeah.
um, you know, I like nonprofit. I like nonprofit. I like knowing that what I do makes a difference in people's lives every single day.
Hmm.
And, but there are drawbacks, obviously. So
Yeah, like you said, you're wearing multiple hats versus
yeah,
just
all the time.
specializing in one thing, which can be good at a sense because you're always challenging yourself in different
That's
aspects.
right.
But how does it compare? What are I guess I should probably start out. What are the different realms that you can take with graphic design? So you have the nonprofit aspect, and then is it like corporate
Yeah,
America
corporate
and then
marketing. So
public?
then, if you're going corporate, you're going to be in corporate marketing, which is a totally different ballgame, but still probably only doing that what you were hired for. Like, if you're a graphic designer at the Bank of Oklahoma, you're a graphic designer. That's it. You're not doing anything else. And there's a certain comfort in knowing that. I mean, when I worked at Sprint for a very short time, we lived in Kansas City back when they did phone books, which nobody knows about anymore, but they used to do a different cover for every regional phone book. And I think I did 6 months and I was like, I'm done with phone books. Like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. It's not for me.
You're
Corporate work
designing
is not
phone
for
books.
me. Yeah. And so I got out of that pretty quick. And I've known that about myself, that, that I like the nonprofit environment.
Yeah, well, I mean, for what I could already tell based on our conversation here is that you're very much a go-getter. And uh, speaking with others on the show, 100%, I feel like that's what you have to do to progress your career is be a go-getter. And were you always instilled with that growing up? Or was it just something where you've always wanted to prove to yourself that you can take on these things and that you want to continue to progress?
So I don't really consider myself a go-getter. I think my sister is. Between the two of us, she is. I am not. I never had hugely high career aspirations. Like, I never said I wanted to be in management. I mean, when I've been interviewed, people ask me where do I want to be in 5 years? I've always just said, I want to love what I'm doing. And whether it's design, whether it's PR, whether it's communications, whether it's nonprofit, I really just want to like what I'm doing, um, and be valued for the experience. And so, which I think is a fine line these days. But um, I don't think, I think I just took on what I knew I could do. And so, I mean, I know I'm a good writer, and I don't like talking to the press. So I always put other people in the press, I learned that at St. Francis. Like, we're always behind the scenes pushing people out. So, that stuff interests me. And so that's probably why I, took it on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But I mean, still though, to be able to manage all of that is very impressive. And I kind of want to take a step back because you mentioned how you were using um, Adobe Creator and then also Canva as
Yeah.
your two sources. What what is the Adobe side of things? Because I've heard of different apps that people will use, even just in terms of like video creation.
Well, their
But
desktop publishing app is InDesign. InDesign came on the scene. I'm pretty sure Adobe and Quark were going to merge, but they came out with InDesign and then phased out Quark. And and what's nice about InDesign is InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator are very seamless. You can go back and forth from one to the other. They look similar. You know what they do. And then with Canva joining the program, I feel like Adobe is actually quite behind on this, and Canva came in pretty quietly and started building this incredible tool. And Adobe, I think, just joined the party about 3 years ago with their version, which is called Adobe Express, which I don't think is as easy to use, but has great stock photography. So I use it for the photography a lot. When
and
Canva came around, I was 90% certain that I would be out of a job within a few years. And what I figured out is it's a great tool for people that don't know how to do anything, because they can do it themselves a little bit. for people like me, it's just another tool in the toolbox that can elevate what you're doing. So if you know what you're doing, it can be even better.
Yeah, and like,
But
what do you recommend for people that aren't familiar with these aspects to kind of get used to them? Because it sounds like this is the way it's going, and there'll probably be another app
that's right.
that joins the process.
Right.
So, how do people continue to know about these different outlets that are out there to them, and also know what works for certain things? Because you mentioned that Adobe was really good for stock photos.
So, like, I use Adobe, I use InDesign every day on various projects. Like, because what Canva has not perfected is from the app to the printer, like the print piece, whether it's making sure the colors all look right, like whatever that is. They haven't perfected that part yet. But InDesign, I mean, I would say I use InDesign and Canva every day for the most part. I mean, and I think Canva's a great entree in. I mean, I've had Adobe forever. Initially, you got CDs, it was thousands of dollars to upgrade. I mean, and then finally when they went cloud-based, it was so nice because not only could you access it easily, but it looks exactly the same on my PC as it does my Apple. And nothing is different. They used to build software that was Apple specific and PC specific. Thankfully, Adobe came in and just made it all the same. And
Which is
so, and
crazy.
you can go back and forth. Like I can design something on my PC at the office, bring it home, and I can open it on my MacBook, and it's completely the same. Nothing has changed unless I've added fonts that aren't on my system. And so I think it's made it much more seamless, much easier, and it's probably helped with efficiency too. I mean, Adobe has some great stuff. Like they have one called Firefly maybe, and it's AI. It's what you create, you can use it to create graphics, which I really don't do that a lot right now because I don't think some of them don't look super realistic. So I'm pretty careful about that. And I'm trying to think, I don't use any of the video editing stuff because I don't edit a lot of video and I just know it's not in my wheelhouse. So
But that takes all experience to
it
know
totally
what it's.
does. And I do think video is a different mindset than print and digital content. And I struggle with it for some reason. I'm not sure why.
No, but you said it towards the beginning of this conversation is that you kind of have one lane that you're really good at and you kind of stick with it. It's tough to be able to be the master of every single thing that's out there. I mean, heck, I edit these and I know I'm terrible at editing episodes. So, but
I think I'm really good. For me, like where I like drew the line pretty much for me, I was like, I'm really good at many things, but I don't have and I kind of live by this, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so I think there's plenty of great videographers in town that can do far better work than me. And so, I feel like we should rely on those folks sometimes because they do know what they're doing.
Gotcha. And I guess like for people that are really trying to figure it out
Yeah.
themselves of just all these different spaces, how do you recommend them getting into the space? Is it just having an idea of, hey, I want to create a new McDonald's ad? Just kind of stick with the
Right,
example
right,
before. Let me just go design something. Like, what did
right.
you do to start out? I know obviously things are much different, but like even now, do you have different things like I'm going to play around with this on this new app?
I don't do that all that often. I mean, I do want to always keep learning. And so that's when I do mess around with some of the Adobe Express, like they're like Canva or some of the AI stuff. And if someone's just graduating with a communications degree, like let's just say plain old communications degree, without a lot of experience, I think nonprofit is actually a great way to start because you learn so much about your community, the agency, the people you serve, and you get a little bit of a taste of a little bit of everything. And some people realize immediately that they love it. And some people realize, you know what, I'd rather go back and be a teacher. Like I have a colleague that was our volunteer manager and she decided to go back to teaching. And so I think nonprofit kind of affords you that space where maybe at a Fortune 500 or college doesn't, prepare you for exactly.
I didn't think about that with wanting to join a nonprofit, if you're coming out with a communications major, to expose yourself to a lot of different things because you're wearing a lot of different hats right now. And
Right.
so once you kind of figure out what you like, then you can start going to maybe the corporate side and starting to figure out there. And then you have all this experience going into it. So it's a little bit better. And you
Right.
know
And
how
I do
different things
think
work.
like going from nonprofit to corporate can be challenging because it's totally different. I mean, it's completely different. Um, but no, I think it's like it's a great taste test, right?
Yeah.
So like United Way here has a program, they hire fellows during their campaign times. They hire like between 10 and 15 young people to go out and do all the campaign meetings and meet with companies and meet with agencies. And that's also a really great way to kind of dip your toe in because you're not only meeting agencies, you're meeting the big, corporate stakeholders in our community. And so that's kind of a neat way to do it too.
Yeah. And I guess I'd love to talk about even just the different realms as well that you can take in, because there's also this freelance aspect
Oh yeah.
as well to it. What does that necessarily entail for people that are unsure?
So years ago, I can't remember. I think I was in Kansas City and I started freelancing. Will just start saying, "Hey, I need an invite. Do you do stuff like that?" Sure. We need a billboard. Do you do stuff like that? Sure. Um, and I've had a few clients for a while now, and I've had clients I've let go. I had a client that decided she wanted to condense her marketing, but they came back to me a couple months later asking me for a one-off card, and I politely said, I think you have someone that's doing all that stuff for you now. Like I don't do one-offs like that anymore. I do them for friends and family and whoever, but
Yeah.
what I used to go to work, come home, work probably another 3 or 4 hours at night, and I don't want to do that anymore. I come home, I want to work out, I want to hang out with Scott, and I don't want to be working all night. It's not good for my eyes. It's not good for my back. There's like so many reasons to not be working like that all the time.
Yeah, well, I remember in my conversation with Scott, he mentioned how, and for people tuning in, as
Yeah.
he was an accountant,
Yeah.
works for a firm, he's a CPA, and he'll get a lot of tax questions just outside of the office, or even just
Right.
people come to him about different business
Right.
proposals or opportunities. And so I was kind of thinking of the same thing with the clients that you deal with. In your world, they might come to you, part of the company, and say, "Can you guys do this?" But then they might come to you separately of asking you to do a different task. So it's kind of like this freelance ability consulting work that's not necessarily there at the same time.
Right.
And I guess like how do you have to set up like your own little mini corporation like
Oh
when
yeah.
you were doing freelance?
Yeah. Yes. I have an LC. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you set up an LLC for yourself?
My husband did it for me since he
Fair
knows
enough.
about that. And, I went and met with an attorney, um, paid an attorney to draft all the documents for me. But, yes, I think Scott took care of that.
Yeah. Did you ever decide, or was there ever a part of you that said, "Do I want to pursue freelance this entire?"
No.
No. Okay.
No, and it just kind of happens. And I mean, most designers I know do it. Number one, because nonprofit doesn't pay a lot. Number two, you get pigeonholed into whatever you're designing, right? So freelance is a great way to stretch your creative arm a little bit and do something different that you aren't doing every single day.
Yeah.
Whether it's invitations or programs or stickers or whatever, brochures, whatever it is. It's just nice to be able to, flex that creative muscle every now and then.
But was it really hard to find the clients at first, or
I have not actively searched for clients ever.
that's
People have
a
just kind of
blessing
found
in
me.
disguise?
And yeah, it's totally fine. I'm not a salesperson. I don't like selling myself. I'm not good at it or comfortable. And so, no, I mean, opportunities have come to me. And, at this point, I'm pretty, I'm just pretty picky about who I take on.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've always been, for the people that I've talked to that are in the freelance world, they worked for free for a good amount of time to just build a repertoire.
Yeah.
Then they started getting clients and then started working their way from
Right.
there, which can be really hard. Like if you're
And
working
and
several
working
hours.
for free is a tough deal because people expect it. friends expect it. Hey, can you help me out with this invitation? And I am the first one to always say, absolutely. That's not a problem for me, but working for free for a designer is tough because if you don't value your work, then no one else does either. And, yeah, so I'll leave it at that.
No, that's totally all
Yeah.
good. I guess I got a few more things for you is
Yeah.
what would you say for people coming out of school, the biggest piece of advice that you can give to them? Like we talked a lot about how if they have an idea, just try and explore the different
Right.
graphic design aspects that are out there. But I find that school can be really tough to give you the full world
Well, you're in a
and
vacuum at
become,
school. It's all
yeah,
theory.
exactly.
It's
And
not
so,
real world.
yeah. And so with all the different realms that you've been exposed to, the nonprofit, corporate, freelance, what advice would you give to people to really start out and really understand what's going on?
So I think marketing is going to change quite a bit, probably, let's just say in the next 10 years. I don't think it's going to be the same as it is now, whether it's because of AI, whether, there's a variety of factors, I think. So if someone's just getting out of school, I think, I think jumping into nonprofit is a great way to start if you don't know, because it just gives you a look at so many different aspects of your community. If someone's graduating with a marketing degree, they probably aren't thinking that they're going to go work for a nonprofit as their marketing specialist, doing design, writing, website, brochure, PR, all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if there's a shift that needs to happen also educationally, because marketing is also one of those jobs that everybody thinks they can do. It's funny, like it's not based on your experience. Like my boss and I have a combined 60 years experience in marketing.
Wow.
But there might be someone from our agency who has like an idea and, they think it's the way to go. And it's a lot of work to make sure that people understand that this is not just putting a picture on a page. It's evoking it's evoking a feeling, it's communicating a message. And so I think that can only be learned by doing.
Yeah. And how has
And that's where
AI
internships help, probably.
Oh, 100%. 100%
Yeah.
internship help. How has AI, talk to briefly about it, but how has AI revolutionized graphic design?
So I actually don't use it for any design yet. I don't
Really?
ask it to create graphics for me. I'm confident in my ability to create good graphics, where I use it for, I want to say this message, but I want to say it in a more excited way. Or I want to say this message, but I need to incorporate all of this stuff. Or even like a job post, because I post our jobs. Here's the entire job description. Can you please write an engaging post that brings somebody in and makes them want to apply? And that is where it has been a huge time saver. And, it's so much easier. You can just, or maybe you need to do 5 posts. They all need to say something a little bit different, but not exactly. That can be done in like 2 minutes, or a marketing plan even.
Yeah.
You can say, create a marketing plan for this. And at least it gives you a starting point. Like I use them for press releases all the time now. And I'll put in our current press release for brand voice, and then we go from there. And so I would say it has positively impacted what I do on a daily basis, but I have not, like, I don't just type in, hey, I need a graphic of a senior playing pickleball. Like, I don't do that, because I know I can create that and we have photos to back it up. So
I
I
just
haven't
heard
done
it's
a
so
lot of that.
crazy. Yeah, I
My
heard it's
dad,
so
though, does
crazy.
it a lot. Like my dad is using it a lot for his volunteer work. And I think he's figuring out the positives and negatives. But yeah.
Yeah, I find it so crazy what you can do with it
Crazy.
now, because you
Yes,
can
it's crazy.
alter the photo to what you want it to be.
Oh,
Or you can
yeah. I
take
mean,
an
there's an
existing
app
photo
called,
and be like, hey, make it brighter, and it'll make it
right,
brighter for you, or add the color changes.
right.
Greg Gillis talked to not too long ago. He mentioned how he works for Aldi and he's for the photographer there.
Uh-huh.
A bag of groceries, he can take it in the store and then alter the image so it's taking place in a kitchen. There's this sun hitting it. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I did a holiday card for a client last winter. They wanted it was a whole family on a staircase. Okay. They wanted the staircase gone. They wanted a beach background. They wanted one of the women's eyes opened more. They wanted the glare taken off the son's face. They wanted a bathing suit put on the baby. I did all of that. And there's a Photoshop app that's the app for your phone. It's called Photoshop Express, and it's even wilder. Like, I can take a picture of myself and make up my eyes blue, and I can make my hair blonde, and I can change. I mean, you can change everything. And so that's where, for me, it gets a little dangerous. Like, how much do we want to edit people? Like,
That's
how
scary.
much right? It's totally, but it's so cool also. Like, it's the coolest thing. And so I mess around with that more than probably anything else, because I feel like it's where stuff is going. I don't like to design on my phone. I don't even like designing on my iPad. I don't feel like I have the control, but that is really cool. I mean, it's mind-blowing, actually. Every time I do it, I'm like, oh my God.
They wanted to open someone's eye part. I don't even know.
And now you can do it on your phone, on the photo app on your phone. There's
Wait,
a
you
new
can?
feature called Clean Up. I think that's what it's called. You can erase stuff. Maybe there's a logo on your shirt you didn't want people to see. You can erase it. I mean, it's nuts.
Oh, I don't know if it's cool as much as it is scary.
Scary?
Because,
right. That's what I think.
Yeah. And it 100% goes into like, when I think of this stuff, I think of Instagram and what people are posting.
Right.
About, okay, is that even real at this point?
Well, now you have to say to yourself, nothing I look at is real. Like, nothing. The picture's not real.
Yeah.
None of it's real. Because sometimes most of the time it's not.
But with your eye, can you tell what the fine lines are of
most of the time, but when I finished with that Christmas card, I was like, this is complete insanity. Like, they're not even where they were. I mean, they're on a beach.
I guess they want to be on a beach. Then you're like,
oh my God, that's so cool that I could do that. Because years ago when I worked at the Home Magazine, 26 years ago, like, a client would come to us, I really want the sky bluer. And that was a lot of Photoshop work at that time. Or we really want all of the grass to be green. Well, that was a lot of work. And so now it's literally just like click and bing.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I've even seen things where you can do voiceovers now for people.
Oh, yeah.
Where, let's just say, Joe Rogan's having a conversation with someone. They can totally fabricate the conversation itself to be completely different, which is insane.
It's unreal.
It's absolutely insane.
It's unreal. No, so that's when I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I'll be, in the office, we're working on something. I'm like, this is crazy. It's so cool. But oh my God. Like, every year Canva does this big, like, presentation. They're in Australia. And so they do this whole thing about what they've added for the year. And every time I'm watching, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that. Oh my God. Like, it's amazing. So every year I look forward to it because I'm like, what are they going to come up with next?
Do they? I've noticed that, like, when you're creating a code, that you can publish it out there for other people to edit and use. Can you do the same thing? Like, I know we talked about earlier how in graphic design, if you're working in the same group, you can edit the same image. But can you do that when you publish an image, someone else can take that image and then edit themselves to be what they want to
Sure,
be?
they can. I mean, yes, anybody can do that. Yeah. I mean, if they know what they're doing. I mean, I think the biggest thing I've noticed is the more you put in a chat, the more it sounds like you, because the more the information you put on your agency, like, that's where you have to be really careful because it's not regulated. Everything's public domain. So everything you put in, but the more you put in, the better it is, because the better you're going to get out of it.
Yeah. I have all these questions. So ArcGIS Pro is this, like, main desktop app that we use at work to be able to basically publish your maps. And I have all these questions that I'll put into chat about it. Right. And I'll say at one point, I'm trying to create a grocery list, and it'll give me something about ArcGIS Pro, but for a grocery list. I'm like, all right, it knows I asked too many questions in this realm.
That's funny.
But I do gotta say, though, Lauren, I really do appreciate you being on the show. It was really cool being able to hear about your perspective of everything, and I can't thank you enough.
Thank you, Drew. You were great.
Hey, everyone. Want to take a quick second and say thank you to whoever listened to the episode today. I really do appreciate it, and it means a lot. If you did like the episode, make sure to give it a like or 5-star rating depending on what platform you are listening to. And if you really want to support the show, check out our website or Patreon link below. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next episode.